Breonna Taylor, which completely broke my heart. I thought it was so interesting the way visual artists were drawing her. There were some moments that were just so Black girl specific that I was like, thank you for including her baby hair. We know these things about ourselves. I could smell her sweet fragrance. Like I could imagine she wore like a sweet, you know what I'm saying, kind of scent just based on the lip gloss. And
those based on the lip gloss, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? We recognize each other. And I was just thinking about this generation that will idolize being captured in our purest or in our most beautiful essence, but how that tends to only happen once you become a hashtag or a rest in peace meme.
Yep.
And I'm like, if that is what they are experiencing, they're going to want to grow up to be hashtags, because that's when you start talking about Black girls. Yes. That's when they have value in our society. That's when the attention gets put their way. And so I just wanted to tell that story and imagine.
This is a little bit grand to say, but on some level, like we've been having these kinds of conversations, you know, probably since our people were brought over here in chains. Like the whole notion of, you know, who's the better Black person to be whatever, you know,
what is the criteria to be excellent as a Black person?
That's right. Yes. And who gets to decide?
Yes.
And how do we have that conversation amongst ourselves? Do we have that conversation amongst ourselves? And is the fact that we're having that conversation on some level, you know, kind of residual of, you know, of slave days, like, you know, the fact that we're pitting ourselves against each other and saying, no, I belong here. No, I belong here. Like, what's that about?
There's a certain scarcity mentality that exists that kind of feeds this type of argument.
A lot of the time when we see portrayals of Black men, conversation isn't what they're having, whether that be a news headline, a piece of film, a piece of theater, a piece of music. Usually it's pulling the guns out versus pulling the fist up. And so, you know, what I have been trying to examine, especially recently with Tough and with Clipper Cut, is what happens when the situation is heightened, what happens when it's a situation and a conversation full of anger and full of hurt, but it doesn't result in anyone dying at the end. Instead, it results in conversation. And what happens when those guns don't come out, but words come out?
Absolutely. Yeah. My play is it's a two-hander. It's called Black Women in Tech. And it is about two Black women who have just moved into the House of Tomorrow in Porter, Indiana. It has become, in my play, a fully automated smart home, and they get locked in the closet because the sensor for the closet in the smart home does not see Black skin.
Wow.
The sensor was kind of my first thing, and that's a real thing. I remember when I was a kid hearing and reading stories about how sensors would not know Black skin. And so I've had that in my head for a long time, but I always needed like a place to put it, because like the main place it happens is like when I was a kid, there was like an Xbox camera that couldn't see Black skin, and then sometimes you see those like, you know, the faucets that don't do it. But I'm always like, if this technology ever got into like a bigger place.
So the inspiration, I was very lucky. I think my ability to be true to the time period is because my dad worked at a Tower Records in the 80s.
Okay.
And so this play is inspired by him, and a story he used to tell me all the time about how he was running late to work and he was supposed to sell tickets that day. There was a long line of people and they wouldn't let him in because they thought he was skipping the line. He had to explain to them that none of them were getting tickets until he let them into the building.
Exactly. You need me.
Exactly. So that's where the play came from, was that story my dad used to tell.
It is inspired by my parents, who were New York City opera singers. They met at Juilliard. You know, they had separate careers, but they also, as time went on in their marriage, they did really well as concert artists. In the play, the husband is desiring of more recognition and more respect. And the wife wants that too, but she wants her connection to her husband. I guess the different ways that we love and the value of connection being maybe more important than the accolades.
I love that you said that, because is there anything you'd like folks to know about He's the First?
So He's the First is about two young queer men, Black men, who are from different parts of the diaspora, different parts of the African diaspora, and they differ in terms of where they are in class. They differ in terms of where they go to school. But what I love about this work is how these two young men still connect to each other despite their differences. And part of my work, part of my platform is, as a writer, is connecting the African diaspora together, and we're seeing that in this world, and I'm really excited about that, and excited about how, despite their differences, they discovered that they have so much in common, and the joy and the journey of them getting to know each other.